Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cycles of Time. This is your weekly forecast for August 12th to 18th, 2024. I hope you had a gorgeous week last week as the sun transited through Gate 7, the leadership gate of the role of the self within collective leadership. I definitely noticed a lot of themes last week, both in my personal life and on the world stage, relating to our ideal desire for a democratic process and collective leadership, from the political arena to the Olympics. I don't know if you've been watching, but one thing that really struck me last week as very Gate 7 was the gymnastics floor medal ceremony, where after the incredibly talented Brazilian gymnast Rebeca Andrade claimed the gold medal in the women's floor final, her two American rivals, Jordan Chiles and Simone Biles from Team USA, showed their love and their kind of collective appreciation by bowing down to her in the center of the podium. And that was just such an image for me that popped up in the newsfeed last week about Gate 7's collective energy and the role of the self, and, you know, how rising everyone up, like the rising tide lifts the ship, and it's not actually a competition. And seeing that within this Olympics so much has been really heartwarming for me. And so I just thought I'd mention that as kind of a little visual for Gate 7 last week. This week is a big week ahead, with the sun transiting through the last two human design gates of Leo season before Virgo season begins. On a personal note, my daughter is starting kindergarten, which feels like a huge milestone and a huge transition from preschool. So I'm getting pretty nostalgic and sentimental over here. Feels like I'm starting school this week. And she's kind of just rolling with the punches, but I am very grateful to have gotten to squeeze the juice out of summer this last couple of weeks, going on some good adventures with some friends visiting from California, to a bunch of different waterways and hidden nature gems around the state of New Mexico. And it's made me really ready to jump into the fall months ahead with a nice tan and beautiful memories of wildflowers and rivers and adventures that we had. I did get the opportunity to interview one of those friends who is visiting for my Leo season guest here on the show. And today I'm so excited to welcome to Cycles of Time one of my oldest and dearest friends, the brilliant Justine Kahn. Justine and I met at the Smashing Pumpkins concert in Albuquerque when we were 12 or 13 in 7th grade. We had floor seats, and we did some moshing and some crowd surfing and all the things that you do. Some of the friends we were with got on stage with the Smashing Pumpkins. So it's definitely one of those early core memories. And we went our separate ways for a good while, different high schools and college experiences. But then we reconnected when we were living in San Francisco in our 20s. And it was just on from there. We've been dear friends since then. Justine is a Leo sun, and for those of you who are new to the podcast, I do a forecast every week looking at the cycles of time through different perspectives, from astrology to human design and the I Ching to the medicine wheel. And I like to have one guest for this first season. I've had one guest per astrological month come on whose birthday is in that month, who has a sun in that sign. So Justine is a Leo sun, and so it was perfect timing that she was here right after her birthday and was able to come on the show and chat about being a Leo and all things related to the lion-heartedness and love of summer and this season. Justine shines her Leo light so brightly out into the world in so many ways, and she has so many gems of wisdom to share. So I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. And just a little bit about Justine. She is the founder and CEO of Botnia Skincare, an amazing organic skincare company. And today we chat about the magic of the botanical world. She's an incredible gardener and farmer and herbalist, and we chat about links between the ancient arts of herbalism and astrology, and how the archetype of Leo shows up in her life. Justine shares her passion for skincare as a form of self-love and encourages us to embrace aging and the wisdom it brings. And we also touch on cycles within the natural world, our bodies and the universe, and the importance of slowing down to truly connect with those rhythms. Justine is honestly one of my favorite people. She's such a radiant soul, and her botanical creations for skin are really life-changing. I'm so obsessed with them. Every ingredient they use harnesses the natural, nourishing power of plants. And Justine has a micro farm in her backyard in Sausalito and works with a lot of other local farms in Northern California. And it's just a beautiful experience to be around that. Her company Botnia's tagline is "We are nature, Botnia by way of earth." And finding our personal unity with the rhythms of the natural world is such a major theme here at Cycles of Time. And I just felt that Botnia's products and Justine's ethos align with our slowing down to notice the cycles and the interconnections of nature, which is what we're doing here on this podcast. I would say check out the inspiring world of Botnia Skincare. I'll put the link in the show notes. And I would say it's a great time to indulge in the gift of self-love as we wind down Leo season. Justine's birthday was a few weeks ago on July 23rd. So her natal sun falls in the first human design or I Ching gate of Leo season, which we discussed a couple weeks ago on the podcast. It's, if you remember back, if you've listened throughout, was the gate of stimulation. Gate 56 was when her birthday was. And this gate is aligned with the gift of enrichment and the city of intoxication. It's a gate that focuses on bringing joy and pleasure to people's lives through sharing stories and heart-centered teachings and intoxicating the world with the power of love. In the I Ching, hexagram 56 is known as fire over mountain, which represents the potential for a rapid dissemination of ideas and passions across time and space. Through Justine's adventurous and curious spirit and her therapeutic services as an esthetician at her spas in San Francisco and Sausalito, and her widespread education initiatives that bring the wisdom of plant-based skincare to healthcare and skincare providers around the country, Justine, I feel, really truly embodies the gifts of Gate 56. So it'll be fun to tap back into that first gate of Leo season as we're entering the last gates of Leo season. We don't have any fuller new moons or to talk about, or pagan holidays, or really shifts in the medicine wheel or the whooshing cycle this week specifically. So I'm going to keep this intro as short as I can and talk about these top couple of gates of Leo season that we're transiting through, which are the gate of formalization, gate 4, which is from yesterday, Sunday, to this Friday. And then the sun will transit over the weekend to gate 29, the gate of perseverance, which again is the last gate of Leo season before we enter Virgo. And so I'll talk about these, and if you'd like to jump straight ahead to the conversation with Justine, if you're here for that, I feel you. I will put the timestamp for that in the show notes, and you can go ahead and just click ahead. But if you'd like to hear the short forecast of the 2 human design gates that we're going to be transiting through this week, I will just lay those out for you right now. I always do weekly themes, and so this week's themes are forgiveness and understanding, and the incubation of innocence, seeing patterns and finding new interpretations for those patterns, openness to possibility with a youthful attitude and being a humble servant, and committing to the present moment and flowing with life from a heart-centered place. So a lot of really juicy stuff going on this week. We are in the medicine wheel direction of south, the direction of fire and of youth. We're in the Wuxing cycle, the Taoist 5-element cycle of earth. We've kind of transitioned from fire into earth for this late summer season. We're in the pagan season of Lammas or Lunasa. The moon phase is waxing, and then we're into those couple of gates in I Ching. So I would say that Leo season's unifying theme as we reach the end of Leo season is heart-centered courage and love. And with the sun transiting through the gate of formalization and the gate of perseverance over the course of this week, I was really struck by how the heart-centeredness of Leo shows up in both of these gates. When I spoke to Justine in our conversation that we'll hear in just a minute here about how she resonates with the Leo archetype, she said without hesitation, she said, ultimately, I do feel like the part of me that feels very Leo is the part of me that really believes that love is it on every level. That's the whole point. The whole point is love. And I really loved this quote because as I look at these last 2 gates of Leo season and reflect back through all of the other 5 micro seasons of the past month, I'm definitely struck by love is it being this unifying thread that flows throughout the season. There's, the words of this week's gates, formalization and perseverance might not instantly scream love or evoke kind of heart-eyed emojis in your heart, but their origins in the I Ching and their contemplations through the lens of the gene keys both reflect loving, lion-hearted cores. So stepping into the gate of formalization, which is from today, starting yesterday, until this Thursday, it's known in the I Ching as mountain over water, and it's also known as youthful folly or envelopment. So as I like to do for these I Ching hexagrams, these visuals, is close our eyes and just visualize mountain over water or water under a mountain. Just kind of see what appears. For me, an image appears of a spring of water contained or enveloped within the rock of the mountainside. And this hexagram is often associated with the process of incubation, kind of how the mountain, the rocks of the mountain, this very solid structure, incubate the flowing nature of water underground in this kind of safe container until it's ready to spring outward into the world. The I Ching says, inexperience is a double-edged sword. It leads one to make mistakes, but the mistakes are necessary in order to learn. Do not feign knowledge. Seek out experience and ask what you do not know. Over time, all gaps in knowledge will be filled. The common name youthful folly for this gate 4 refers to the idea of youth being inexperienced and so trying to make up for that inexperience by using logic and formulas and reason in our minds to gain control and feel capable in the outer world. In the gene keys, gate 4's energy at the shadow level is called intolerance, and it's kind of about immaturity and intolerant views through clinging to logic of the mind alone. This gate is about the journey toward the wisdom that formulaic knowledge alone can never bring peace, but only true understanding brings peace. And understanding is different than knowledge because it involves the heart and it involves the whole being, not just the mind. In its higher frequency, the gift level of Gate 4 is about true understanding of others and of situations that we're in through using that lion's heart that Justine referenced instead of the mind alone. And through this heart-centered process, creating new formulas for existence. So shadow is kind of getting stuck in the formulas that already exist and just needing more and more knowledge, more and more information to feel a sense of stability. The water wants to be like the mountain, perhaps, in that youthful phase. But as we mature and as we grow up, the gift of understanding comes through actually exhausting your mind and like looking at all the different angles logically of any concept. There's a quote that says, from the Gene Keys, that says, when you look logically at all angles of any concept, you begin to realize that nothing can be proved through logic because logic can be used to prove the opposite. When you finally see this, your whole being lightens because you realize once and for all that the mind is of no use to resolve anything of any importance. This, in turn, releases up the mind to do what it does best: research and communicate and play. When the fourth gift is freed from having to solve your existence, it finally comes into its real genius, to play with the patterns of existence and arrange them in new and original ways. When you have the feeling of visceral understanding deep in your belly, your mind is no longer hampered by the need to defend your own viewpoint. In fact, you realize that all logical formulae can be used to prove or disprove anything. I just realized that Justine's mom, who is also a Leo, has her sun in this gate. So if you're listening, Justine, this is your mom's gate to listening to this a little bit with her in mind. The siddhi, the kind of highest transcendent frequency of this fourth gate, is known as forgiveness. And this is where deep understanding overcomes mind-based knowledge. And this occurs when somebody makes a leap beyond understanding at a societal level and more towards like a quantum cosmic level of understanding. Forgiveness is kind of more like cosmic warmth that transcends this game of infinite karmic debt that we're in. And I like to believe that we are working our way away from intolerance and to a deeper understanding and forgiveness. And this could look like for countries forgiving financial debts to each other, or individuals forgiving emotional debts to others in relationship, and just kind of putting a warm blanket over that, but through understanding, over the karmic debt game that we play. Forgiveness and understanding are both actions that take many viewpoints into understanding. We have to be open-minded to understand and forgive, and not intolerant of other beliefs. So these frequencies require making decisions with the heart and with our whole body, rather than just with the logical fallacies of the mind. I really like this gate because when I was born, Venus was in this gate, so it's my Venus gate, gate 4, and it's also my partner's rising sign gate. So because those are pretty powerful placements, I've been contemplating this deeply over the past several days, and I've known I've had a Leo Venus for a while now, Venus in Leo, but learning about it through the specifics of this gate, this micro season, really rang true to my life so far. Venus is the planet of what we value. So I do resonate with Gate 4 in the terms of values, and just in that I value the process of understanding so much, trying to understand different perspectives. And I feel like that's been a life quest of mine. I definitely do see the shadow side of intolerance and youthful folly within myself when I try to justify my feelings away. And like when I'm feeling sad or angry at someone or something, I can definitely go overboard in my mind, trying to form a logical story about why that's happening. And that usually doesn't end well, getting so attached to needing more answers and needing a logical framework for what's going on emotionally and in my body. But by taking in different perspectives of people and situations into my heart rather than into my mind, I do feel that I have a pretty good capacity for forgiveness in this life. And I've been told that by people. I would hope that I do, and I want to work on that even more all the time, to just live more in that heart-centered way that Justine was talking about with Leo season. So do you have Gate 4 in your chart? Curious. And I'm curious how that shows up for you. Please leave a comment if you do. And I just love to hear about how these resonate with people and how this week will show up for you as well. Then over the weekend, we're going to move into Gate 29, the Gate of Perseverance, and that's Friday through next Thursday, which is when we enter Virgo season. And Gate 29, over this weekend, we'll focus on themes of commitment and determination and the capacity to endure through challenges and obstacles. We all know what perseverance is. And it's pretty clear in this. It's very related to that. This gate emphasizes the importance of saying yes to experiences and to commitments with discernment, and recognizing kind of that true strength lies not just in the ability to start, but also to persist with dedication until the end. I feel like this last gate of Leo, perseverance, is symbolically very connected to a very specific visual and archetype of the lion, the proud, perseverant lion who doesn't act like a sheep and is very like opposite of sheep, doesn't take any bullshit. And when I Googled images I Googled Leo plus perseverance, I think, at one point, and a lot of images came up that were very connected to Christian and biblical notions of the lion's association with the godly path of perseverance. And there's lots of Bible quotes about never giving up and about endurance and steadfastness and how we have to persevere and God will be there for us. There's a lot of quotes kind of with a big picture of a lion that say, "A lion never loses sleep over the opinion of sheep." And it's all about kind of that internal power, not giving up, not growing weary. And in the I Ching, hexagram 29 is water over water, and it's known as the abysmal. And the water trigram is a solid or yang line in between two broken yin lines. And that to me looks like an image of water flowing through, like steadily flowing through the middle. And it draws on the fact that water flows uninterruptedly and with perseverance towards its lowest gravity point, towards its goal. There's a quote within the I Ching that says, "If you cannot change the direction of the wind, adjust your sails and let it guide you." So when I look at perseverance and compare the biblical notions of perseverance to the Taoist notions in the I Ching, both are about continuing toward a goal and not giving up. But I would say in the biblical sentiment, it's more about an active sacrifice, an active force, kind of pushing through and not growing weary. Where the Taoist sentiment is more about embodying the nature of water and flowing through obstacles by staying alert, by taking heart. There's heart again, and by continuing to move forward. And there's definitely a similarity again between the two, with the sentiment that we have to maintain faith in order to get through choppy waters. So faith is there at the core of this weekend. If things do get a little choppy, there's some other astrology coming up this week that I have decided not to get as much into the weeds with astrology as I follow these sun transits, because otherwise these podcasts would be really long. But I do follow the astrology and all of the other transits, and it definitely feels like this week might have a bit of choppiness. So just keeping this in mind, be like water, to persevere from a lot of different historical angles. It's right there. I definitely see like this last gate of Leo as a heart-focused gate in this way. Knowing that perseverance is all about maintaining courage in the face of danger and adversity and, not like weird transits that are happening. And, I love the word courage as opposed to bravery, because the root of the word courage is cor, which is Latin for heart. And so it's about courage is being heart-centered. So here we are again in this loving heart-centered vibe of Leo season. There's a quote from Divination Foundation, who writes about the I Ching, that says, "Those who respond to dangerous conditions most effectively are those who can establish an inner bubble of calm in the midst of chaos. An emotionally stable center keeps one rooted in the moment, alert and focused. Courage at times like these springs from focused attention and a brave willingness to penetrate the moment of peril to its very core, to reshape and transform it." So expanding on this Leo heart-centered theme, the gene key interpretation for Gate 29 is also about the heart. And this comes through with the shadow of 29 being half-heartedness. There's that word heart again. And so this weekend, looking at this gate and being in the gate of perseverance through any hardships that do come up, we can ask ourselves, what in life am I doing in a half-hearted way? there's a lot of energy that leaks out when we do things half-heartedly. It's kind of better not to do something at all if you're going to do it half-heartedly. And I like that half-heart rather than half-ass, because I feel like that doesn't make as much sense. But half-heart, you can really feel it when you're like just partly there. So I encourage you this weekend to be wholehearted in what you do. The gift of Gate 29 is commitment, and this transcendent city level is devotion. And both of these carry the sentiment of living life from the heart fully by committing to the present moment, by releasing our judgments and expectations, by being devoted to what it is that we're doing. And in doing that, we're kind of freeing the love in our hearts to embrace that all life has to offer. With love and commitment to living with a full heart, we can overcome any abyss or any obstacle that life throws our way. So thinking about perseverance as heart-focused, I think, is just so beautiful. And I love that this conversation with Justine that's about to come on really gave me the opportunity to look at this week's forecast through this lens of Leo's heart-centered qualities. So the sun is in that gate from Friday through next Thursday, when Virgo season's ushered in by the gate of sexuality. So we'll chat more about the perseverant gate and heart-centered gate and do our final recap of Leo season next week. And now, without further ado, I'd love to jump into the conversation with Justine Kahn, the founder of Botnia Skincare, dear friend, Leo sun. Definitely check out botniaskincare.com to learn more about her earth-centered, cycle and ecosystem-centered products, and enjoy the conversation. I'll see you next week on the Aquarius full moon. Welcome to the studio, Justine. I'm so excited to have you here. Today I am sitting here in the Cycles of Time studio with my good friend Justine Kahn. And Justine and I have known each other since we were, I think, 12 or 13 years old. Met through some mutual friends in junior high and ended up at Smashing Pumpkins concert in 1997 together. And yeah, kind of were friends for a while back in the day, had some really great experiences together. And then lost touch for many years and ended up both living in San Francisco in the mid-2000s, mid-2010s, and ran into each other again. And from there, it's just been on. And so I am honored to have you here in the studio today and to talk about cycles in the way that you come to them and to dig into your astrology a little bit. Justine is a Leo whose birthday was in the first week of Leo season. And now as we reach the last week of Leo season and head into fall, this episode will be a little bit of a Leo recap, talking about kind of how all of the weeks of Leo season have been about heart-centeredness and living from a place of self-expression. And Justine really embodies that. So I just wanted to welcome you again.
Oh, thank you so much. What a sweet introduction. And I can't believe it's been a lifetime that we've known each other. So thank you for having me on your podcast. It's such a joy to be here and to talk about being a Leo.
Awesome. Yes. You are such a radiant being and such a heart-centered person and really do embody the Leo archetype, I feel. And yeah, I'm so grateful to be a part of your life in the way that I am. Our daughters are off to the pool together today. We have, your daughter's my goddaughter, and we have connections through the generations. And so connecting as mamas, connecting as people who are influenced by the cycles of time in a really big way. Justine has a beautiful company called Botnia, which is a skincare company that is, and I'll let you tell a little more about it, but it definitely, I've seen it since its inception and evolution, and just, it's a beautiful, beautiful company and beautiful product that ties into nature's cycles and plants and botanicals so beautifully. So I'd love to start out by just, digging in a little bit to how you connect to cycles and systems of the ecosystem through your work and on a personal level.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, yeah, ecosystems and cycles are what my work is all about. And really, my company, I have an organic skincare company, but it came about because of looking at my guest skin. I'm an esthetician by trade, and so I was working in the treatment room looking at human cycles of their bodies and what was happening for people's skin, and wanting to connect people to something that I really believe is a message that we all need to gather around, which is that we are nature. We are a part of a bigger cycle. We are a part of this earth, and in synergy with different ecosystems like plants that can heal us, right? And coming back to that truth that, of course, we all know inherently inside of ourselves, but in the cosmetics and skincare world, really has gone away from the earth and really into a lot of chemicals and, different kinds of ways of treating the body. And, for me with my work, a lot of it started first with just looking at the skin and skin cycles and what was being shown in my treatment room, and then designing a product around that, which of course led me to the earth and growing a lot of these plants. And so now I find myself in between gardening and teaching and making skincare in a lab and, many different ecosystems that I exist within. But it's really cool that we can look just around ourselves for a lot of the answers to helping our bodies thrive.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you have a opportunity to look at just the packaging, I'll share the link for Justine's company in the show notes, but just the packaging, and for everything from the packaging to the ingredient list within the products to your farm that's in your backyard, as well as the neighboring farms in the area of Northern California where you are. It's an incredible flow of natural, connected, integral kind of beauty. And some of my favorite memories that I have in this lifetime are spending time in your garden and your farm and seeing that evolve from a wild garden into a wild farm, I guess, still keeping that wildness alive, but definitely seeing you cultivate it into working with these plants and working with kind of, what is going to be best for most people. And I'd love to hear a little bit about, kind of how you got here, like how you got your start in, I guess, as an esthetician, and just a little bit of your story.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And I do feel like a wild garden, just to go back to that, is the most magical garden. And I always struggle with this order that I've had to create to produce plants, because life goes on. It just wants to spring up everywhere when you're tending land. And so a wild garden is the best kind of garden. But really how I got started was really with my own journey with acne. I think a lot of people come to healing because of a personal experience, whether that's like psychotherapy or, even astrology, however we come to healing. A lot of times it comes from ourselves. And really, for me, acne was really in high school and outside of high school, really disabling. And so I became an esthetician. And then once I became an esthetician, working in the treatment room, I just found that the products I was using were causing more harm than good. And so I just kept seeing these guests and really just loving them and wanting to care for them so deeply and wanting to be in integrity with what I was offering them. And then just finding that the results I was getting were just harmful, really. And so it led me to learning about cosmetic chemistry, and then that ultimately led me to cultivating a little micro farm on my own land. And I would bring these potions back to my spa in San Francisco and kind of, use my guests as a muse and look at their skin and go, okay, what if I added a little calendula and I added a little bit of kale and I added a little bit of chamomile together and made you a face mask for your rosacea? rosacea, or your acne. I pull in some, sulfur, and then I could pull in some colloidal oatmeal to protect your barrier. And I started thinking about plants from this very almost like triage state of like treating the skin as it physically existed in that moment with real plants from the earth, or, sulfur is a mud from hot springs, but really thinking about, how I could utilize what we have here as a part of a skincare ecosystem. And I created an apothecary facial that I became, I always get a little shy about this, but like a little famous for in San Francisco. And so it bloomed into a company that I shared with multiple other estheticians, and that has since grown and grown and grown. And we are now, I think, in around 300 spas across the United States, which is really cool. And
wow.
I teach a lot about how to utilize these plants in the moment of service based on what you're finding on your guest skin, which, goes back to what you love to talk about, which is, the cycles we're in, and whether that's a cycle of time, that we're aging, or maybe that's a time where we're having more hormones inside our bodies. And, how do we work as holistic practitioners to think about treating our guests? And that's what I talk a lot about with my esthetician partners, but also my own clients.
Beautiful. Yes, I know that you have this whole network, and congratulations for being in that many spas and reaching the whole nation with this product, because it is radical in a way that, we think, of course, plants are healthy. You think of plants, you think of health, but then when it comes to skincare, I think when I met you, I was using like drugstore apricot scrub.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, and you just like fainted when I told you. You were like, no, and you instantly, kind of changed my ways, and just again seeing that evolution of you experimenting and really working with kind of your appreciation for the plants, and seeing you do that in your garden and learn from these cycles, and then be able to apply them to human life cycles. I love how you call it's not for aging skin, it's for wise skin.
Yeah.
You have the wisdom oil, and this idea that just even bringing something like that into the mainstream, that it's not about fighting aging and anti-aging, but it's working with where we're at, right?
Oh God, it's so true. And as I age myself, being in my 40s, I think wisdom is the thing we get. We get to be wiser. What an exciting thing to grow older and wiser. And pro-aging, that is what we are. We should all be pro-aging.
Yeah.
If we're lucky enough, we get to age.
Oh, please. I know. Truly, truly. Yeah. I mean, coming from, teenage years and struggling with kind of with acne, as you said. I know a lot of us did growing up. I know I did. And just to be able to find your way through helping people, and being able to share their stories and your story through this work, it's so beautiful, and I've loved watching it grow. And I'm so looking forward to what comes next with this, and the teaching element as well. It's so cool to know that you are not just creating a product, but also a service and an education that helps people work with this in a proper way, and really deepen the wisdom themselves about the plants and about where this is all coming from. What kind of response have you gotten from your esthetician partners or spa partners out there?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's the greatest honor to be a teacher. On any level, just to stand in front of anybody, especially a peer, and be able to say, this worked for me and maybe it might work for you, and to share the knowledge that I've, spent my career cultivating. And it's been incredible to see. It's kind of like wildfire in a lot of ways. It just has been adopted with so much excitement inside the beauty industry. And I really see my company as almost like we are kind of misfits, because, we're not funded. We find our estheticians through Instagram or, word of mouth. Somebody takes a class somewhere and then they reach out to us, and, we help educate them. And it's so cool because it's really the estheticians inside your community, the massage therapists, those are the healers, the physical touch healers of communities. And we all need those people inside our communities. And then to have those people working with real plants that you can trust as a customer to know that these plants don't just come from, wherever on Amazon. These plants are grown in a real garden that cares, so much about every part of its ecosystem, from the way the soil is nourished to how the plants are handled, that there's no pesticides used, that the strain of plant that we're growing is specifically medicinal. I also have a background as an herbalist, so, really bringing in a lot of these older ideas of how we've always handled plants, and then bringing it to something like the beauty industry, where, for so long it's really been all about how many chemicals can we put in one product to, alter people's physical bodies. And really, these estheticians just feel like they're breathing fresh air, it seems like, which is so sweet to be any kind of vehicle for that. My gosh. And, their guests really are the ones who benefit. And so they're really seeing that. And it does feel like every year we just are having an unbelievable amount of people interested in our company. And when I look out years and years from now, my hope is that we can actually be the change that we want to see inside the beauty industry and bring back plants, and do it in this really beautiful, elevated, intentional way with the results that people deserve, that they're looking for. And it's really exciting.
Yes, absolutely. I love that breath of fresh air, and just being a part of giving that breath of fresh air. It's interesting. I feel like there's been a renaissance in the past several years. I feel like in herbalism, people interested in herbalism, people interested in gardening. I mean, I think the pandemic and houseplants and sourdough bread, I think of like 2020, and the things people were getting into is really the back to the basics. Like, oh wow, you can't just click your fingers and have something delivered to your doorstep that's magically going to cure something. And hopefully it does feel magic, because it is within these natural cycles. There's a lot of magic there. But I think that over late stage capitalism, we've come to expect such a instant gratification without really understanding where it comes from, or how it's part of a larger ecosystem. And so seeing this resurgence, at least from where I sit, in herbalism and in plant medicine, in different types of plant medicine, in astrology, in the I Ching, and, the things that we're talking about in this podcast as well. It's all linked together to this ancient knowledge that it's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy to learn because it's a product of vast complexity and deep understanding, but at the same time, it's right there in front of us. It's tangible. It's tactile. It's beautiful. Most often, looking at the natural world, and when you start to pay attention to it, there's this rich, deep beauty, but that we've kind of held at an arm's length because I think systematically it's been eradicated. It's not an accident that we haven't had access to healing plants. When you look at, how the chemical industry and the pharmaceutical industries have affected everything going into skincare. And so I really, just looking at this wisdom and passing along this wisdom as a radical act, but something that ties us deep into our roots and into our past. It's just lovely to know that you're doing this work in the world and sharing these stories and passing that wisdom along.
Well, I so appreciate that. And I will say one last thing, which is that, our bodies are incredible, and just like the planets or whatever ecosystem you're looking at, they take time. And so to this instant gratification you were talking about earlier, it's so important that we learn how to slow down and allow our systems to have the space and time for change. And I think in the beauty industry in particular, there's this like Hollywood result where people want to like put on a face mask and then take it off and have perfect skin. And that's not how our bodies work. And our bodies, they take time, and they take time for good reason, because it's an entire ecosystem working together to create change. Those chemicals that our brain is secreting that tell our endocrine system to regulate whatever our body is experiencing, whether it be stress or, maybe there's some sort of new hormone that we're experiencing and our body's regulating it and, telling our other systems to have a reaction because of that. It takes us time. And I think if people can just really slow down and realize that when you work in synergy with the body, you're actually able to make the most lasting change. And that's how I healed my acne. And so for anyone that's struggling with acne, it's really about working with your body. It's really about slowing down, or rosacea, or any skin condition that somebody might be experiencing, and really looking systematically what's happening, right? And that's why astrology is so interesting, because you're looking at the stars and looking systematically at what's happening in the ecosystem and inside the cycles.
Right. The micro and the macro. It's all related to the earth. I mean, the way I view all of this is that, the earth is what we are born out of as humans, as biological creatures. The cats that are in this room as well, all of us plants and animals are born of this earth, and the earth is something that we have always paid attention to and had to pay attention to survive. And to put it into that context, it's kind of like we are made up of the same stuff as the earth, the same elemental qualities. And so many of these ancient systems, from the I Ching to the medicine wheel to astrology, are elemental at their basis. And getting into those the microcosm of that is so interesting, because you see them across cultures be slightly different. In some cultures we might consider fall to be a water season, and in other cultures it's a metal season, and there's different ways of framing these elemental qualities, but it has a lot of meaning and a lot of resonance, and it's about these smaller pieces that we're all made up of. And then at the macro level, the earth isn't all alone in the universe by any means. And we know that, of course we know that. But as we start to really understand the cycles and the patterns, and we're able to, in our own lives, think about, when one Saturn cycle ago, what was I up to 29 years ago? Or one Jupiter cycle ago, 12 years ago, where was I? And just knowing that we are having this kind of planetary dance around the sun, that is in our instant gratification and fast moving world. It's hard to look at scale like that sometimes, but all of the planets, Mercury is 88 days, and then Venus is like a year and a half, and then Mars is 2 years, and it's these dances that you can start to pay attention to, but it takes slowing down in this weird way, where similarly to paying attention to the cycles of the skin and what's happening with the hormones and all of the things that make us up. When you zoom out, it is very similar, because we're paying attention to what the earth, what part of the dance it is in with the rest of the solar system and beyond. And so, for me, I love that all of these art forms are coming back into fashion in a way that has less taboo and less stigma about it. And I remember getting into these kind of art forms, and I don't even know what to call them, because it's not divination per se, it's not fortune telling, but when you put astrology and the I Ching, those are both known as divination practices. But I think that they go deeper than that, because it's not about fortune telling, it's about being in relationship with the moving bodies around us, with the changing seasons, with the planets, with the stars. And so when I got into these, I remember always having a kind of like I have to have a disclaimer about how, I don't really believe that, but it's interesting, right?
Yeah,
and now, obviously, I've gone off the deep end, and I'm very, I don't have that disclaimer anymore. But it's just a matter of looking at it as a slow process of relationship with more than human. We are in relationship with so many different cycles and just different elements of the ecosystems that we live in, like you said. So, yeah.
It's so cool. It is. It's so mind-blowing. It's amazing because you can really zoom in on anything, to your point, and look at it as its own ecosystem. And so, really letting yourself be nerdy in whatever way speaks to you, and looking at it as an ecosystem or as a cycle. And you can apply that to everything, and that is so beautiful.
Yeah, you mentioned skin cycles earlier. I was like, I did not know that was a thing. You tell me about skin cycles. Can you?
Yeah,
what's that all about?
Well, even throughout the month, there's so many different ways to look at skin cycles, but even throughout the month, you could have, different pHs of your skin depending on which cycle, like a menstrual cycle, where your menstrual cycle is. And so you may have more sebaceous activity at a certain point in the month than you do at another point in the month. You may find your skin to be drier. And this is why, when I train our partners, our estheticians, to look at the skin, I always tell them to listen to what their guests are telling them and to really explore what people are doing at home and where they are in their cycle and all of the details that they can, but then to kind of put it on a shelf and then physically touch and look at people. Because so many people are basing their ideas on their skin, on what somebody told them many years ago is true about their skin, instead of what's actually true for them in that moment. Because we have many different cycles throughout the month. We have many different ways that our body is constantly adjusting and interacting with our atmosphere or wherever we are, or cycles of time. Now my body is losing collagen at a more rapid rate than it was in my 30s, and especially than I was in my 20s when it was just building it.
Right.
And so now I'm in this new cycle, right? And so just like we can look at the planets for longer cycles and shorter cycles, our skin is kind of the same way.
Wow.
And our body is that way too.
Of course, right. And so it's about paying attention to them and not just, it's kind of, I think at one point I was told that I have combination skin by somebody along, and I'm like, what does that even mean? But I now, now I can get my product for combination skin, but that's like the most
And that's not
generic.
how I would all describe your skin.
Right. That's still in my head from probably around 13 when I met you. I was like, oh yeah, combination. Yeah. It was like some dermatologist perhaps.
Oh, and at 13 when you have all
when it's
those
not even
estrogen.
Right.
Oh my God, those androgen hormones pumping. Of course you were combination.
Combination, yeah. Like, I'll take it. Oh
my gosh.
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, I love that you're bringing up these cycles of, just that there are many happening at once, and that we, it is just paying attention to the moment and being able to form, a deeper relationship. And it's something that within astrology, with the way that I've started to look at it is looking at, I'm kind of obsessed with the cycles of like the body and just different body parts that are related to different signs. It's known as medical astrology. But it's, it's looking at, Aries as the head, and then working down to like Taurus as the throat, and Gemini as the lungs, kind of the chatty Gemini, and then Leo as the heart. And it's this ancient practice of kind of the zodiac man of that's definitely been debunked as far as like scientific, but when you look back at it as like a symbolic representation of like times of the year and what parts of the body are emphasized, or times of your life and what parts of you are really being emphasized, it's a fascinating study to kind of weave these together. And so I love looking at the body as a certain cycle within like zodiac signs, and then also the life cycle, which you just mentioned as far as, the collagen production in different eras of life. There's also, looking at the archetypes and the symbols for the zodiac signs. There's, Aries is birth, and then it moves into kind of Taurus as like toddlerhood and early childhood. Gemini is kind of childhood, when there's a lot of chatting and learning the social skills, and then moving into Cancer is kind of like an adolescent time, kind of going back into your shell and learning about yourself. And then Leo, which I do want to move into talking about Leo a little bit, with your sun sign being in Leo. Leo. Leo is about kind of, that time in your life that's about the heart and being heart-centered, and also about your kind of your 20s, this time when you have a lot of collagen production in your skin and you are living from the heart and you're filled with just passion. And of course, this isn't trying to be like a prescribed indoctrinated system of like, this is this, but a lot of times within these systems we're speaking in metaphor. And so to look at the cycle of the year as like summertime being associated with the 20s and with the heart, like to me that really tracks. And so I wanted to kind of use this as an opportunity to switch gears and pivot a little bit into talking about your astrology, being my Leo season guest, and just curious, being born kind of right after Cancer season ends in the first week of Leo season, how have you related to that archetype throughout your life? Like, when did you learn about this, or how has that shown up for you?
I mean, I was really lucky. My mom and my godmother were really into astrology in the 70s and 80s, and so I guess when my mom was pregnant with me, her due date was earlier on in July, and my mom is a Leo with Leo rising and a Leo moon.
Oh, nice.
And so she was really hell-bent on having a Leo baby.
No way.
This is the story that I've been told my whole life. And so she was like, I will not give birth on July 15th when her due date was. And she waited until, this is her story, who knows, until, July 23rd when she went into labor, and she was like, okay, fine, I can have this baby. And I was born on July 24th.
Oh, amazing. Leos want to procreate, like expand the pride.
She was really wanting a Leo child.
Wow.
And I think growing up, I always saw Leo through my mother, because she is triple Leo power, and she's like the ultimate entertainer. She's actually a horse trainer and, really accomplished dressage rider and athlete. And I saw her passion and her dedication to something she really cared about as, kind of this very Leo way of being. And she also really loves to nurture and nourish with food. And so she's an incredible chef, and she loves cooking. And so I always saw that as a part of her Leo-ness in so many ways. And for myself, I find myself to be different than she is, though, as far as relating to being a Leo. I see myself as somebody who really loves like one-on-one attention. I don't love the bigger stage, which is funny because I find myself on it now from time to time, and I'm like, do I like this? And usually the answer is no. I am still nervous, and I kind of black out a little bit sometimes when I'm teaching because I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so nervous. But ultimately, I do feel like the part of me that feels very Leo is the part of me that really believes that love is it on every level, that the whole point is love.
Oh, I love it. That is so beautiful. That speaks to you. And I had no idea that your mother was also a Leo, triple Leo. I can see that now. Your mom is a force for sure, and definitely on the world stage. And, but I love hearing that you're the nuance in that, and that you relate to it and also have your own take on it. As far as I do always, I think one-on-one in your sessions, at work, and when I've hung out with you one-on-one, there's a definite, like, you pay so much attention to each person that you're with. And I know that my daughter, as a 5-year-old, she can see that with you, that you're actually like looking at her and seeing her. And with all ages and all peoples, I think that you have this amazing ability to do that. Leo it shows up for sure. Do you feel any of the Cancer energy of coming out of that, being a cuspy, or do you feel pretty identified with Leo?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I am a forever teenager. So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I will always be a teenager in my heart. So I think that's the Cancer part of me. And, I think, I like to swear, and it feels good. And don't know.
Yeah, punk rock.
Yeah, exactly. I like punk rock music.
Right.
That's, my heart music. So I feel like, that part of me really exists inside that Cancer way of being. But I've always thought of myself as a Leo. Mm-hmm. And I do have, Scorpio rising, and I think that part of myself, I see myself really as that too. Mm-hmm. And that is that part of myself that just likes to go deep with people and deep on anything, really.
Definitely. Yeah. I remember, I think the first time I met you pre-Smashing Pumpkins concert, I think I was like 12, and I remember you teaching me how to like put lipstick on properly, and then saying that I should put it on overnight because it'll like make a nice lip stain. I remember this. At a sleepover we were having, but I remember the feeling of just like the dedicated attention that you were paying to me, and it didn't feel like you were telling me what to do or how to be, but it was more so like, oh no, you have a question, like I can do this for you and connect with you in this way, and so to see.
So funny.
I don't know if you remember that.
No, I do not remember that, but I take it back. I don't wear your lipstick to sleep.
It was like a lip stain. Yeah, I know. Don't trust the 13-year-old version. But yeah. I mean, I think of like, the perpetual teenager, but also like, that early 20s, or that, I always saw you as a confident teenager as well. Mm-hmm. There's like the withdrawn teenager vibes, and then there's the like, okay, I figured this out, and I am in the, the prime of my youth, and like I know what I'm doing. So I definitely see those vibes from the very beginning of my time with you.
I love that. I know it is interesting. So with Virgo, because you're a Virgo, mm-hmm. do you identify with the actual life cycle of a Virgo?
Thanks for asking. It's kind of like getting into I call it the gist, get your shit together era, where it's the kind of like, okay, Virgos are always associated with just like tidiness and spreadsheets and being kind of like nitpicky and that kind of thing. And I don't love those, ramifications of Virgo. I think that that's not necessarily like how I want to be, but as I get older, I think, so I'm Leo rising, and I have a Leo Venus and Mars, and so it's funny because like I always read my Leo horoscopes because it's, for the rising sign, and I'm curious about, the interplay between Leo and Virgo in that way, because I do think that I have certain Leo elements, but when it comes to my sun, which we're talking about here most of the time as we go through these solar transits, and just thinking about the radiance, like this center of gravity being this piece. I do see Virgo as like, I like to be a service provider. I like to care for people. I like to kind of like make sure that everything's getting done by checking in with lots of people. And I see Virgo as, not the virgin, but I like the harvesting maiden. She's like the goddess of the harvest, who is making sure that, just discerning between what's rotten and what's ripe. And I do see myself doing that. I'm definitely analytical. I can definitely nerd out on all of the details as far as like, if I'm excited about them, but I don't think I'm defined by that necessarily. So I do see it being like the 30s as like, oh yeah, finally I'm like outside of that party zone, or like as much as I loved my 20s, I think that like settling into my 30s was a time when I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I like responsibility. I like to like know what I am responding to and being part of larger systems and that kind of thing. So yeah, thanks for throwing it back at me.
I love that. I love that. And I see that for you. It's interesting because I know a lot of Virgos, and they all are unique in different ways. And I think that archetype has always been kind of hanging over poor Virgo's head of like, you must be so organized.
Right. Yeah. I think it's misunderstood. I think it's more discerning than organized.
Yes.
Because you can be, there's a lot of really messy Virgos, but they're like, this is my mess and I know where everything is. Like, it's, I think about it as a time when there's just like, a lot of fruit kind of starting to fall to the ground, and you don't want it all to rot. But that doesn't mean that you have to spend all your time making a spreadsheet about like where it's going to go. You just kind of are organically, I see it as a very botanical, ecosystems driven kind of like just subtle attention to the complexity of what's going on in the moment.
I love that. I love that. And I actually feel similarly, with all signs, that there's this archetype that people kind of know, and they kind of say it to you like at a bar, and it's like, oh, you're a Leo, you must love attention,
Right, totally. Everybody's got the shadow
of God, okay.
Yeah, totally.
I guess I don't know. That doesn't resonate for me, but maybe there are some Leos out there, and but I do find that I do collect a pride of Leos. I do have quite a few Leos that I get to work with at Botnia that were my first hires. And I do find that when you have a pack of lions together, it's a pretty powerful mix.
Yeah, absolutely. They do run in packs. Yeah. I mean, I think I was lucky enough we were talking about going to the same camp yesterday, treehouse camp in New Mexico when we were growing up. We didn't know we were at the same camp. So it was pre-7th grade, I guess. We must have crossed paths, rubbed shoulders. Wild. But I was telling you that The Lion King was like the soundtrack that was playing one of the summers that I was at that camp, and everybody was just singing it. And so when I think of Leo, like throughout this whole season, it's nice to have this like Disney animated kind of version of like going deep into these different lion archetypes of like the playfulness and also the struggle of the circle of life, the ability to...
and the queen lioness.
Yes, the power of
above it all.
Exactly. And just being up on Pride Rock. Yeah, just being up there, going into your cave, kind of retreating. But like, it's not all about being like always giving a show or being on display. There's a certain quality of going inward and being one-on-one and having those kind of like those talks with everyone else in the pride, in a one-on-one basis of truly connecting to what they're all about. And there's a definite beauty there that is, I think you're right. Every sign has like a misunderstood quality, or the problem with sun sign astrology is that we can become very laser focused into a stereotype of like, I love that one and I don't like that one.
Yep.
But I think that by bringing in all of these different elements of, the cycle of life, the cycles of like what's going on in our body, the season that it's coming out of, it helps to give more nuance to our personal relationship to it, rather than just something that has been told as a prescriptive, like, these are the adjectives that that Leo is all about. But then it's like, no, let's actually just like close our eyes and think about like what it means to be on July 23rd as your birthday, or in early August, and like what does it feel like to be in that season? What are we thinking about? What's going on in our bodies? Like what's the vibe, And like for Leo, I see it as just like, fruit hanging heavy on the tree and being just like in its ripeness and in its abundance, and plants, being hot, being kind of outward because we're hot, but not because we're prideful, because we're just like, this is the weather, this is the season that I'm in,
Oh, I love that so much, and I can just visualize it right now. My garden right now is so hot.
Yeah.
And, it's really starting to wind down August. And so like our chamomile, for instance, is the first to go. And so we're pulling out all of the chamomile because those asters, they just can't hold up to the heat of the summer. And, it's going to start to be about, planting our fall vegetables, and we're going to start throwing in kale and different kinds of plants into the earth starting soon. And really that like kind of last burst too of summer, where you have these like delicious hot nights that help those plants still grow and kind of have a new life, right?
Right.
And that it's not over yet.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's like the first notes of fall, you can kind of hear them in the distance, but I think because of that knowledge that that's coming, it's like there's this extra kind of juiciness for me, it's just all I've been doing very explicitly for the past couple of weeks is just like sucking the juice out of summer, knowing that back to school season's coming and like a lot more structure is coming, but kind of like, how can I be spontaneous? How can I be that final flush of like the juiciest, sweetest fruit or flower that's, this is the kind of the last chance, but not looking at it with scarcity, but more so with just like, I'm filled with like it's flowing through the veins. It's right there,
It's still happening.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, my second flush of roses in my front walkway have popped out, and they're kind of Gemini season. Early, May was when they were last out, and then all of a sudden it's like this whole other red, orange, fiery kind of, like I'm still here, and I just love seeing that and kind of putting a pin in it for this specific season.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best. There is a quote that I just love so much, and it's actually about time, because I think when we think about cycles, we can get really attached to time when we're in the cycle, and that stops us from being present. And so it's actually from Alan Watts. I don't know if anyone's familiar with him, but he's amazing in lots of different ways. And he says that time is a rhythm and a motion. And so if you can just be present inside the rhythm and the motion of time, and this time is really just about floating on the river and being outside and being warm and being in that motion, right? It's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, we are in the rhythm and the motion. There's not really any planning ahead. I mean, it's just kind of like being in the isness of the now, and that, and I think that leads to what I think of Leo, I just think of like self-expression in a big way. And Leo's polarity across the wheel is Aquarius, which is all about kind of like collective expression and like larger societal things, and that's in the cold of winter when that season is kind of a little bit more about like looking towards the future, and it's associated with like future and technology, whereas I think Lion and Leo is just, it's the now, and recognizing that they're both incredibly important. And, Leo being self-expression, it's like we need a lot of selves to create the collective. And the more we can be authentic in our own selfhood, the more that the collective will also be authentic in itself, right? And so it's like, it's an interesting polarity between Leo and Aquarius. And definitely to me, it shows the seasons off in a really strong way of like what our bodies are wanting to do at that moment in time. I love that Alan Watts quote. I'm reading a Alan Watts book about Taoism right now that I just picked up again after reading a long time ago. And beautiful, just thinking about musicality of it, right? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Exactly. That Taoism, I love the idea of, thinking about things as not linear, as also always existing too.
Yep.
And that we don't have to limit our thinking to what society is telling us to think about today, right?
Right.
We can look at bigger rhythms or motions or patterns or ecosystems or
I love that you bring that up, because I think that you're right that even when we're talking about a cycle, it kind of seems like a track and field track, right, where you're like running around it, and so it's actually a line that has been bent. And so we're still kind of linearly thinking, but like what a cycle really is knowing that it's like, it's outside of the concept of time that we have as linear. And I think that we are so far from thinking of time as like not a straight line that it's almost hard to grok that, to be like, wait a second, what does that mean? Because it's not a track that's been bent into a circle. It is everything. And like with an astrology chart being a circle, or with the I Ching being arranged in a circle, or the medicine wheel being a circle, it is the acknowledgement that we are always everything. And that we have all parts of that within us, and we're not just like one little chunk of it, even though we might have certain activations or kind of like an energetic signature of like a planet being there, or more resonance with a certain season because of our personal preferences. But that doesn't mean that we're not affected by the whole, and being able to look at it through the opposites and the polarities that are just right across the wheel that bring the similarities in. It's like, I think that's the biggest challenge for a lot of us, to like recognize that once we give up that idea that that we're one little place along the track and we're trying to get somewhere, but we can zoom into the bigger picture. That's such a valid point.
Oh yeah.
It's
true. I mean, the one thing that is true, at least for me, is that time is just progressive, and so we're progressing in whatever that means, right? And like we know that because of the changing seasons and the changing body and the changing plants and the changing things around us. But there is no destination except for death, and
Why
who
rush
knows what's going to happen
and after,
then.
yeah.
But like, not to take it all the way there, but like to take it all the way there, that like progression is just progression. And like these cycles and these ways of being in the rhythm of life, and looking at, what does it mean to be a Leo, or what does it mean to be a Leo right now in my 40s? I don't know. Maybe it'll mean something different in my 50s and 60s and 70s. Who knows, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned how Leo shows up for you earlier, just to go back to that a little bit, compared to how you see it in your mother. And I'd love to interview your mother at some point and kind of see how which parts of Leo shows up. Because one thing that I've been really geeking out on throughout the course of this podcast, since I started it on the spring equinox, is looking at the different kind of micro seasons within the season. Mm-hmm. And so I've spent the last decade getting into astrology and learning about the signs and the houses and the planets, and just speaking the language of astrology. But I think when I learned about human design, which was actually from Katie Woods, who is one of your former she brought it up to me, I think in 2018. It was like, have you heard of this thing? And I was like, that sounds like too much, like cool. They're trying to bring all these systems together, but like, I was thinking about that the other day, because I was like, oh yeah, there's a connection to somebody I met through you bringing this into my life in the first place. But I was like, okay, this is interesting. It took me a while to like sink into what this means, but I think I consider the gates of human design and the hexagrams of the I Ching, or the gene keys, the 64 gene keys. These are all different names for the same thing, which dates back to this 5,000-year-old plus book, the Book of Changes, which is originating in, pre-Taoist China. And it's just this incredible human symbolism of like how we interact with the natural world and how we process changes. And so going all the way back, like I had a book about the I Ching when I was, I think, in junior high that somebody had given to me, and read about it, and then kind of shelved it because I was like, that's some esoteric, interesting thought, and like that seems cool, but way too abstract in a certain way. And so to have that kind of come back in a cycle to like these more modern systems, these people who are, within the last couple of decades have put together systems that have really popularized these micro seasons. So I look at, I've been on my own personal tangent of like going deeper into the astrology knowledge that I have, and the astrology kind of conversations, and breaking them down into micro seasons. So each zodiac sign, there's 12 of them in the wheel, has about 5.5 of these gates or hexagrams per sign. And so basically there's 64, there's 52 weeks in the Gregorian calendar year, and that's the calendar that we live within, which is kind of not as associated to cyclical, the 13 moons, the natural cycles of time, but we obviously have to keep living within that. And so like within this podcast, I'm looking at, that's 52 weeks of the year, but I'm kind of breaking them down into like which part of the 12 zodiac signs are we in, and then which part of the I Ching 64 gates are we in. And so just kind of, that's a like high level explainer of like what it is how this is woven in. But so within Leo, your mother may be her sun may be in a different gate, or her moon or her rising may be in a different gate than your gate or your hexagram that you're in. And that, to me, when you were saying it, kind of like felt very true from what I know about what your gate is, and the one-on-one kind of and desire to kind of like share stories and like be connected with people in that one-on-one way, that actually really highlights the gate where your birthday is.
Oh,
do you know anything about this?
No, I don't know anything about this,
cool.
But this makes total sense, because my mom's birthday is August 20th. Okay. And so she's like the very opposite end of Leo to me.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So she's her birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
Right at the very end, and you're right at the very beginning. Oh, interesting. So she's in the gate of perseverance, which is,
Okay.
I'm going to talk about a little bit after our discussion today, because that's what gate we're going to be coming into next week when this airs. So you can listen to that or pass it along to your mom.
Yeah.
But you are in the gate of stimulation, and it's also known as the wandering storyteller. And it is gate 56 in the I Ching. And yeah, it's that Leo, so it ends Cancer season and begins Leo season. So it kind of spans and connects those two signs. And the gate right before you, interesting to know that your due date was the 15th of July, because that's actually Jackson's birthday, who is my last guest on the show. And he was born in the gate of details, which is, we talked about when he was on the show about almost a month ago now. And it's kind of about collecting all the details and being very attentive to all of the different details in the world and the kind of fractal nature of the universe. But the next gate after that leads us into Leo season, where your birthday is the gate of the storyteller. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of also a gate of like a traveler, someone who has kind of gone inward in that Cancer season, inwardness, and collected all of these details along this journey of the sun, and then afterwards really wants to share what they know with the world and through storytelling. Yeah. So I'm just curious, this being the first time you're hearing about this, how does that title resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely resonates with me. And I think, even thinking back to myself as a child, I was always in story about stuff, convincing my poor little sister that, unicorns and fairies were real and, building these elaborate, of course, all children do this stuff, but I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, being that I educate and also hold a lot of just an amazing amount of space for knowledge to be shared within a community. So yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, like the way it shows up, because when you were talking earlier about teaching all of these people that are in all of these different states and all of these different locations, you might not be traveling per se wandering about sojourning about, but you are connecting with people from all over the place and telling story about how to live within these cycles of skin and how to like really implement this. And I think also, in your room at the, when you had Skin Remedy and working with people in that one-on-one basis, hearing their stories, it's, I think your work is so therapeutic in that way, to be able to hear other people's stories and reflect back as well. So yeah, I saw it when I noticed that and I learned a little bit about that. I was like, that kind of tracks for me, knowing you. But I always like to check and see, what does that feel like? Yeah, and it's interesting you were talking about, you used the term spreading like wildfire early in our conversation. I was like, how's it going? And the I Ching hexagram, they're made up of they're kind of binary symbols. So they're made up of two elemental, like elements from this Chinese system. And yours is fire over mountain. And so, the visual for me of that is like how fast fire travels, especially, over mountain ranges, for better or for worse. But it's like, it's that quickness of kind of like traveling, using that kind of like fiery spirit. And I like to look at these hexagrams and kind of just, again, close my eyes and really like think in my body about like what that looks like for me. And for me, that one is, it's that like that connecting with the storyteller feels like, like I can talk to everybody and share a story with them. And it doesn't have to be a specific type of person or in a specific place. It's like the ability to kind of universalize a little bit and be like, this is relevant for everyone.
I mean, I totally connect to that. And I think there's a piece of it too that's like, I've always felt like I have a clear vision, right? And when you have a clear vision, you're able to express it clearly to people and have them adopt it or not.
Yeah.
But if you're able to express it clearly, then people who do see themselves with it take it and they run with it too, and they make it their own. And that's really interesting.
Right. And that's how fire kind of works. And,
Exactly.
being in this summer season of fire, in the medicine wheel, in the whooshing cycle, the Taoist whooshing cycle, the early part of Leo season was fire. We're kind of edging into earth in those cycles a little bit as we approach harvest season a little bit. But in the beginning of Leo, it's definitely, that fire. And so having fire over mountain and, the way that it spreads, the way that information and stories can connect with each other that way. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's cool to kind of dig into these a little bit and just provide a little bit more specific, like still Leo, but there's this this part of it that it is. And I've gotten really into the gene keys, which is a man named Richard Rudd who put together, he kind of studied the I Ching, studied human design in the 80s, and then kind of took it on his own path, took these symbols and these ancient interpretations and made them into kind of a different telling. And in his telling, he uses kind of frequencies of the energy that we're in. And so there's like a shadow frequency that's kind of like you were talking about, Leo's being prideful or Virgo's being nitpicky or whatever, like that's kind of an associated frequency that is not necessarily desirable. And then there's always like a more desirable, like a gift. What is the gift of that frequency? And then he also includes a city level, which is like this kind of karmic universalization of like being connected to source through this energy. And so I've found there's an audiobook on Spotify that I've really enjoyed listening to these. I had the book, and for a while I was like, that's just so dense. There's a lot of information there, and I love it occasionally. But since I've started listening to it, I kind of just, let the information come through. But I've gotten really fascinated by these tellings. And would you like to know what the kind of different frequencies are for yours? I'll read a couple quotes from the Gene Keys about this Gate 56, because I thought there were some things that just stood out to me about things that resonated with you a little bit. One was that people who have this gate are able to show others how their problems are really wonderful opportunities, and that there's a true kind of enjoyment that's located within your heart. That the fact that you brought up the love being it, and that resonance with Leo really spoke to me as high frequency of this gate where you kind of enrich others through what you've learned in life and bring possibility to people and through these stories, through the work that you do, so that they can then spread it along. It says you can party. One of the quotes is that you can party with the best of them, but you always know when to stop. Oh. And I could see that. There's a certain discipline within this as well, where it's like, as a traveling storyteller, you're not getting stuck in one place and just, going wild, but you're definitely able to like really connect wherever you are. And I do know that you love to have fun and like you know how to have a good time and to really just like be in that present moment. But I think you're also able to connect it with a certain seriousness and discipline. So this is just, exuding some of the things that I was reading. I was taking notes as I was reading and I was like, that's Justine.
I love that. That's so true for me, actually. I've always had this really easy ability to stop the party. And it's funny because, even in my 20s, when people were really partying in the circles I hung out in, I was always able to just be like, nope, I'm going to work tomorrow to go give facials, so I'm not going to go there tonight, but I'll be here with you. And, I think it's a thing that served me really well. So that's funny. Yeah. Like there's this, ability that you have to just like be in it and then just kind of, not let it take you down the river. So I've found that the shadow and the gift and the city level of this that kind of relate to those quotes that I just spoke about was the shadow is distraction. The gift is enrichment. And then the city is intoxication. Oh. Yeah, good words. So just by speaking those, I'm curious how those land for you. Distraction, enrichment, and intoxication. Yeah, I mean, I think I've done a lot of work to work on distraction. So that one feels really, it does feel like a shadow, but it doesn't feel like something that for me has been too hard to overcome when it comes to my professional life. But, I think in this day and age, it's so easy to be distracted. That's interesting. And enrichment, that definitely really syncs with me. I think, I think about enriching on every level. Like, how can we make it better?
Yeah.
How can we have a crescendo, but not at the expense of the thing we're doing, right? But doing the work to really enrich it.
Yeah.
So I love that. And yeah, what was the last
Intoxication.
one?
It's an interesting one. Yeah. These are the ones that always make you think a little.
I feel like I get really intoxicated by things I'm passionate about. It becomes everything around me, almost like the air.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see that, whether it's like being one-on-one with a friend and it being really intoxicating for us to hang out and, listen to your stories, or, if it's my work and Botnia and doing facials or thinking about a formula, it can feel really intoxicating to me. And it's kind of all I can think about. And sometimes I worry almost that I self-soothe through intoxicating myself with these kinds of, fantasies when I get really in my work or in with a friend, or, that it becomes everything in that moment. So that's interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think intoxication is associated with drugs oftentimes, or with, things that are like substances that we consume. But when you look at, toxins, I was in part of the Gene Keys that I was reading, it was talking about like the original toxin being like Cupid's arrow piercing someone with love, and the toxin is this this all-consuming love element that is kind of exuding from us, right? And so like when you think about it, like something like drugs or partying or like getting too into things that are not necessarily good for us in the long run, those ultimately are like distractions. They're intoxications, but they're distractions from kind of like from our essence and from our own enrichment. And it's kind of like this path through this frequency of kind of getting in touch with the.
That's so interesting that you're saying that, because I recently had this epiphany about Botnia that I'll share with you, which is so funny, but it kind of speaks to this, which is that I realized recently that, it is my passion. It's the thing I care so much about, but it's because it's a vehicle for love. It's because it's just a way that I can love a lot of people at once, right? And care about all the details for them. And if it wasn't a skincare product, it was always going to be something else, right? That I would have always found. But maybe it's just the intoxication of love that it drives me, right? And that's what I care about. And so, I'm creating this company, I'm doing this thing, I'm loving my family and loving my friends and loving these things, but ultimately it's maybe through that lens. So that's really interesting.
Oh, I love that. And I do feel the love in all of your products. And the way that, literally I put on some of your hydrosol spray or lotions or face wash and just, feel love. Like I took some of your hydrosol to a rave party. Justine and I were also ravers back in the day, in the 90s. So we have this rave connection of having a good time. But I went to a party in New Mexico last year for my birthday, up on this mesa, and I brought some of the Pinon hydrosol spray that you had cultivated from gathering and ethically foraging, some Pinon branches around this high desert area. And so I still had some of that and brought it and was kind of misting people with it in the way that you've misted me in the past, in this very it's a whole experience. Just like close your eyes and just like feel the essence of this plant. And I can't even tell you how good good that felt to bring that, like you said, with the wildfire and spreading this to other people, and just to be able to take this spray of something that I had been with you for the collection of, and then having it distilled and like put into this beautiful bottle in this beautiful format, and then kind of spreading that love to other people that are surrounded by pinon trees and, you know, up on this mesa. It was just this like epic moment of like connecting all the dots.
It's so true. I mean, you know, the thing that is so cool about that in so many levels, but the thing that's so cool about washing your face or caring for your skin with anything is that it's the one moment a day that we touch our own selves with self-love. And, you know, maybe we touch ourselves with self-love other times of the day too, you know, hopefully we do. But for many people that are busy and in their lives, they just don't. And
totally.
It's so important to touch ourselves with self-love and to get to be that intoxication of that, to get to have that as something I get to provide people is like, holy shit, I am like living the dream.
Totally, man. Yeah.
It is the best possible outcome.
Yes, absolutely. I do see you living this high level frequency. You know, I don't know to what degree I'd believe in like, you know, high frequency, low vibes, high vibes, but there is something about like seeing the, you know, the growth trajectory in our lives, that we have the ability to, you know, have like these archetypes built into us, but then really embody them in different ways as we learn and as we grow. And just to see, how, you know, going away from being distracted or like, you know, needing to do all kinds of different things and being like, I have this focus, and my focus is to enrich people and to enrich myself at the same time, and then to intoxicate the world with love through plants. You're doing it. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is. It's the best. It's like it's beautiful. I think that we can pretty much just call it there. Like, I think that, you know, love is it. Love is the Leo vibes, and you embody that so well. And I'm so glad to be your friend, beyond grateful for everything that the way you've intoxicated my life over these years.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yes.
It's been so sweet to share with you and share with your listeners. And I'm just so endlessly proud of you too. This podcast is amazing. I personally listen to it. I've turned many of my friends onto it, and it's such an amazing way to think about different aspects that all coalesce into what we're collectively experiencing. And I hope that I was able to share something that was helpful for somebody. And, you know, if you're interested in my company and you're listening to this, please check us out. How can we find you? Oh yeah, botniaskincare.com, BOTNIA.
Beautiful.
And check us out. It would be such a joy to care for you too.
Oh, please do. And I will post that link in the show notes. And just thank you so much for being here. Definitely check out Botnia. It's truly amazing. It'll change your life. And so, And we'll talk to you all next week. Thanks again, Justine. Love you.
Love you too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.